In the year 2247, humanity had finally reached the stars. For centuries, Earth's people dreamed of exploring the galaxy, meeting other intelligent beings, and taking their place among the stars. But when they finally broke free from their solar system, they found that the universe was not waiting for them with open arms. Instead, it was ruled by an organization called the Galactic Council Group, made up of advanced species who decided how things worked in space. Humanity wanted to join this council, but every time they asked, they were told no. The reason? Other species thought humans were too violent, too emotional, and too unpredictable. But this time, things were different. This time, humanity had Daniel Carter and Emma Lewis. Daniel was a calm and clever diplomat, known for his ability to talk his way out of almost any situation. He believed strongly that humanity deserved a chance to prove itself. Emma, on the other hand, was a scientist who studied alien life. She spent years learning about the customs and biology of other species, and she knew better than anyone how humans could fit into the galactic community. Together, they became the face of humanity's latest effort to join the council. The journey began in a large conference room on Earth's moon. Leaders from all over the planet gathered there to hear Daniel and Emma's plan. The two stood at the front of the room, facing rows of skeptical faces. Some of the leaders didn't think humanity was ready. Others worried that trying again would only embarrass Earth further. But Daniel wasn't afraid to speak his mind. Humanity has come a long way, he said, his voice steady and confident. We've learned from our mistakes. We've worked with the Andorians to mine resources without harming their planet. We've signed peace treaties with the Krillians, even though they're nothing like us. We've shown that we can change, that we can grow. Emma stepped forward next, holding up a small device that projected images into the air. The pictures showed smiling humans working alongside aliens, building schools, sharing technology, and solving problems together. This is proof, she said softly. Proof that we belong. Proof that we can be part of something bigger than ourselves. The room fell silent as the leaders considered their words. Finally, one of them spoke. Even if we agree, what makes? You think the council will listen? Daniel smiled faintly. Because this time, we're not just asking, we're demanding. If they won't give us a seat, then we'll show them why they have no choice. It wasn't easy to convince everyone. But eventually, the leaders agreed to let Daniel and Emma try. They sent a formal request to the council, explaining that humanity was ready to take its place among the stars. To everyone's surprise, the council responded not with a flat-out rejection, but with a challenge. They invited humanity to prove its worth through a series of trials. If humanity succeeded, it would earn a seat at the table. If it failed, it would never be allowed to ask again. News of the trials spread quickly across Earth. People were excited but also nervous. What exactly were these trials? Would they involve fighting? Puzzles? Something completely unexpected? No one knew, and that uncertainty made many uneasy. Still, Daniel and Emma remained optimistic. They assembled a team of experts to help them prepare. There were scientists, engineers, doctors, and even a few soldiers. Each person brought something valuable to the mission. As the launch date approached, tensions grew higher. Protesters gathered outside spaceports, holding signs that read, "Don't fail us," and Earth deserves better. Families of the participants cried and hugged their loved ones goodbye, knowing the risks involved. Even Daniel and Emma felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on them. They knew that failure wouldn't just affect them, it would affect everyone on Earth. Finally, the day arrived. The team boarded a sleek spaceship designed specifically for the mission. It was fast, durable, and equipped with cutting-edge technology. As the engines roared to life, millions of people watched live broadcasts from their homes, hoping against hope that this gamble would pay off. When the ship reached its destination, a shimmering portal floating in empty space, the team stared at it in awe. None of them had ever seen anything like it before. The portal glowed with colors that seemed to shift and dance, making it look almost alive. Daniel took a deep breath and turned to the others. This is it, he said. Whatever happens next, we stick together. We don't give up, no matter what. One by one, the team stepped through the portal. On the other side, they found themselves standing on a barren moon. The sky was dark, dotted with distant stars, and the ground beneath their feet was cracked and dry. A holographic message appeared in front of them, speaking in perfect English. "Welcome, humans. Your first trial begins now." The message disappeared, leaving the team confused. Where were the instructions? What were they supposed to do? Before anyone could figure it out, the ground trembled slightly and the air filled with a low hum. Suddenly, the team realized they weren't all standing in the same spot anymore. Half of them had vanished, leaving the rest scattered across the moon's surface. Panic set in immediately. "Where did they go?" someone shouted. "How are we supposed to find each other?" Daniel raised his hands to calm everyone down. "Stay focused," he said firmly. "We don't know what's happening yet, but panicking won't help. Let's start by figuring out where we are and what we need to do." Emma nodded in agreement. She pulled out a scanner and began analyzing the area. "There's some kind of signal coming from the north," she reported. "Maybe it's a clue." The remaining members of the team followed her lead, moving cautiously across the rocky terrain. Meanwhile, the missing half of the group faced similar challenges elsewhere on the moon. Each faction struggled to understand their surroundings and find a way back to the others. Little did they know, this was exactly what the Council wanted to. Test whether humanity could overcome division and work as one. Hours passed, and the moon's harsh conditions pushed everyone to their limits. Temperatures dropped sharply at night, forcing the team to huddle together for warmth. Strange creatures emerged from the shadows, their glowing eyes watching silently before disappearing again. And mentally, despite the hardships, Daniel kept reminding everyone of their goal. "We're here because humanity deserves a chance," he said during one particularly tough moment. "If we quit now, we're proving the Council right. Is that what we want?" His words reignited the team's determination. Slowly but surely, they started working together more effectively. They shared supplies, helped injured teammates, and encouraged each other to keep going. Emma used her knowledge of alien environments to guide them toward safer paths. While Daniel kept morale high with his unwavering optimism, on the third day, two groups finally met near a towering obelisk that pulsed with light. Exhausted, but relieved, they embraced each other, realizing they had passed the first trial. The holographic message reappeared, congratulating them. "You have demonstrated unity," it said. "Proceed to the next trial." Though the team celebrated briefly, they knew the hardest parts were still ahead. But for now, they allowed themselves a moment of pride. Against all odds, they had proven that humanity could rise above its differences and work as one. It was a small victory, but it gave them hope for the challenges to come. And so, with renewed confidence, the team prepared to face whatever the Council threw at them next. Whatever happened, they were determined to show the galaxy that humanity was more than just a young, reckless species. They were survivors, dreamers, and fighters in. They weren't going to give up without a fight. After passing the first trial, the team felt a mix of relief and pride. They had proven that humanity could come together, even in the face of division and danger. But their celebration was short-lived. The holographic message from the Council appeared again, this time instructing them to prepare for the second trial. Without warning, the ground beneath their feet began to shake, and a bright light engulfed them. When the light faded, they found themselves standing on a completely different planet. This new world was nothing like the barren moon they had just left. It was covered in dense jungle with towering trees that stretched high into the sky. Air was thick and humid, filled with the sounds of chirping insects and distant animal calls. Streams of sunlight broke through the canopy above, casting golden patches on the forest floor. At first glance, it seemed peaceful, almost beautiful, but the team knew better than to let their guard down. A new message appeared in front of them. "Your task is clear," it said. "Protect the Valens." Before anyone could ask what a Valen was, the message vanished, leaving them with more questions than answers. Daniel looked around at the team. Okay, everyone, he said, trying to sound calm even though his mind was racing. We need to figure out who these Valens are and how we can help them. Let's split up into smaller groups to cover more ground. Emma nodded in agreement. I'll take one group and head east, she said. You take the other group and go west. We'll meet back here in 2 hours unless we find something sooner. The team divided, each group moving cautiously through the jungle. The terrain was tricky, with roots sticking out of the ground and vines hanging low from the trees. Every step felt like an adventure, but also a risk. They didn't know what dangers might be lurking in the shadows. It wasn't long before Emma's group stumbled upon a small village. The huts were made of woven branches and leaves, blending seamlessly into the surrounding forest. Inside, they found the Valens small, furry creatures with wide, curious eyes. Valens looked up at the humans with a mixture of fear and hope. One of them stepped forward and gestured toward the jungle, making urgent noises. Emma knelt down to get a closer look. They're trying to tell us something, she said. I think they're in trouble. As if on cue, a loud roar echoed through the forest. The ground shook again, and the Valens began scrambling to hide inside their huts. Emma and her group exchanged worried glances. Whatever was coming, it wasn't friendly. Stay close, Emma instructed. We don't know what we're dealing with yet. Moments later, a massive creature emerged from the trees. It looked like a cross between a lion and a lizard, with sharp teeth, glowing red eyes, and claws as long as knives. It sniffed the air, then turned its gaze toward the village. Humans froze, unsure of what to do next. Daniel's group arrived just in time to see the creature charging toward the village. Daniel shouted, grabbing a nearby stick and waving it in the air. His plan worked. The creature turned its attention to him instead of the Valens. But now, Daniel was in serious danger. Get back, one of the soldiers yelled, raising his weapon. He fired a shot, hitting the creature in the shoulder. It roared in pain but didn't stop. Instead, it lunged forward, knocking Daniel to the ground. Emma sprinted toward him, her heart pounding. She grabbed a rock and threw it at the creature, hoping to draw its attention away from Daniel. Over here, she yelled, her voice trembling. The creature hesitated for a moment, then turned to face her. For a few terrifying seconds, everything seemed to slow down. Emma stood frozen, staring into the creature's glowing eyes. Then, out of nowhere, another member of the team, a young engineer named Alex, stepped in front of her, holding up a makeshift shield made of tree bark. Run, he shouted, pushing Emma back toward the others. The creature swiped at Alex with its massive claws, sending him flying into a nearby tree. Blood trickled down his forehead, but he managed to give the team enough time to regroup. Together, they formed a defensive line, using whatever tools and weapons they had to keep the creature at bay. The battle raged on, for what felt like hours. The creature was strong, but the humans were determined. Slowly, they began to wear it down, forcing it to retreat back into the jungle. When it finally disappeared, the team collapsed onto the ground, exhausted but alive. Emma rushed to Alex's side. Are you okay? She asked, tears streaming down her face. Alex groaned, but gave her a weak smile. I've had worse, he joked, though his voice was shaky. Daniel walked over to check on the Valens. To his surprise, they were still there, watching the humans with expressions of gratitude. One of them approached him and placed a small, shiny stone in his hand. It was warm to the touch, and Daniel felt a strange sense of calm wash over him there. Thanking us, Emma said, joining him. That stone, it's probably a token of appreciation. Daniel nodded, turning the stone over in his palm. We did it, he said softly. We protected them. But the victory came at a cost. 2 members of the team had been injured during the fight, including Alex. Supplies were running low, and the jungle showed no signs of letting up. The team gathered around a small fire that night, eating ration bars and discussing their next move. We can't keep going like this, one of the soldiers said. If every trial is this hard, we won't make it. Emma shook her head. We don't have a choice, she said firmly. Quitting isn't an option, not after everything we've been through. Daniel agreed. She's right. We knew this. Wouldn't be easy. But we're proving something important, not just to the council, but to ourselves. We're showing that humanity is capable of sacrifice, of putting others before ourselves. That's why we're here." The team fell silent, reflecting on his words. Despite their exhaustion and injuries, they felt a renewed sense of purpose. They had saved the Valens, and in doing so, they had proven that humanity was more than just a selfish, aggressive species. They were compassionate, brave, and willing to fight for those who couldn't fight for themselves. The next morning, the holographic message reappeared. "You have demonstrated sacrifice," it said. "Proceed to the final trial." The team exchanged nervous glances. They had come so far, but the hardest part was still ahead. Whatever the final trial was, it would test them in ways they couldn't imagine. But for now, they allowed themselves a moment of quiet pride. Against all odds, they had passed the second trial. And though the journey was far from over, they were ready to face whatever came next. With heavy hearts but hopeful spirits, the team prepared to leave the jungle behind. They didn't know where the council would send them next, but they knew one thing for certain: they weren't giving up. Humanity had demanded a seat at the table, and they were determined to earn it one trial at a time. The team stepped through another shimmering portal, leaving behind the dense jungle and its dangers. This time they found themselves in a completely different setting: Grand City floating above a massive gas giant. The sight was breathtaking. Towering buildings made of glass and metal stretched into the clouds, their surfaces reflecting the swirling colors of the planet below. Bridges connected the structures, glowing faintly with soft blue light. Ships of all shapes and sizes zipped through the air, creating a hum of activity that filled the atmosphere. But there was no time to admire the view. A holographic message appeared before them, speaking in calm yet firm tones. "Welcome to the final trial," it said. "You will face the council itself. Your answers will determine your fate." With that, the message vanished, leaving the team standing in silence. Daniel looked around at the others. "This is it," he said quietly. "No more physical challenges. It's just us and them now." Emma nodded, her mind already racing. She had spent years studying alien cultures, but nothing could have prepared her for this moment. Facing the leaders of the galaxy directly was both thrilling and terrifying. "We need to stay focused," she reminded everyone. "Whatever they ask, we answer honestly. They'll see through lies." The team followed a path that led them toward the largest building in the city. As they approached, the doors opened automatically, revealing a vast chamber inside. At the far end of the room sat the council members, each one representing a different species. Some looked humanoid, while others were so strange that it was hard to tell where their bodies began and ended. Their eyes were whatever passed for. Eyes glowed faintly, watching the humans with an intensity that made Daniel's skin crawl. A tall, slender being with silver skin and elongated fingers stood up to address the team. "You have proven resilience and sacrifice," it said, its voice echoing through the chamber. "Now, you must prove wisdom. Answer our questions truthfully, and your worthiness will be judged." The first question came from a bulky creature with dark, armored skin. Its voice was deep and rumbling. "If peace required humanity to abandon technological progress, would you do it?" Daniel hesitated for a moment, then stepped forward. "Technology is part of who we are," he said carefully. "It's how we've grown, how we've learned to solve problems and improve lives. But if abandoning it meant saving countless others, we would find a way to adapt. Humanity has always been about balance, finding solutions without losing ourselves." The council member tilted its head slightly, as if considering his answer. Then another elder spoke, this one resembling a floating orb of light.
"How do
"You ensure that your actions in the cosmos do not harm others?" it asked. Emma took a step forward this time. "We don't claim to be perfect," she admitted. "We've made mistakes, caused harm, and hurt others along the way, but we learn from those mistakes. Every failure teaches us something new. That's why we work so hard to understand other species, to listen, to share, and to grow together. We know we can't undo the past, but we can build a better future." The orb flickered briefly, almost like a nod of approval. But not all the questions were easy. One elder, a serpent-like being with piercing green eyes, leaned forward and hissed, "Why should we trust you? Your history is filled with violence, greed, and destruction. What makes you think you won't repeat those patterns here?" The room fell silent. The weight of the question hung heavy in the air. Daniel glanced at Emma, then turned back to the council. "Because we're willing to change," he said firmly. "Yes, our history is flawed. But it's also full of moments where we chose to rise above our instinct, to forgive, to rebuild, to reach out to others. We're not asking for blind trust. We're asking for a chance to show you that we've learned, that we're ready." The serpent stared at him for a long moment before retreating slightly. Another elder, a bird-like creature with feathers, shimmering in shades of gold and red, raised its wing. "Imagine a scenario where two species under your care come into conflict. Both are equally valuable. How do you decide which side to support?" Emma swallowed nervously, but kept her composure. "We wouldn't take sides," she said. "Instead, we'd focus on finding common ground. Conflict often comes from misunderstanding or fear. Our job would be to help both sides see each other's perspectives, to remind them of what they share rather than what divides them. Peace isn't about choosing winners, it's about creating harmony."
Ow.
The bird elder let out a soft trill, as if pleased with her response, but the questioning didn't stop there. Each elder took turns probing the humans' values, ethics, and vision for the future. Some questions were philosophical, others practical, but all of them demanded careful thought. The team listened closely, supporting each other when someone struggled to answer. As the hours passed, tensions began to rise. Not all the elders seemed convinced. A few exchanged skeptical glances, whispering among themselves in languages the humans couldn't understand. Daniel noticed this and felt a pang of doubt creep into his mind. Were they failing? Had they come so far only to fall short at the last hurdle? Then unexpectedly, Emma decided to take a risk. When an elder asked her what humanity valued most, she paused and looked directly at the council. "Hope," she said simply. "Even in our darkest moments, we never gave up. We dreamed of reaching the stars, of meeting beings like you. And even though we've been rejected, criticized, and doubted, we're still here, asking for a chance to prove ourselves. Hope is what drives us, it's what makes us human." Her words resonated deeply. Several elders shifted in their seats, exchanging thoughtful looks. For the first time since the trial began, the atmosphere in the chamber softened slightly. It was clear that Emma's honesty had struck a chord. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the questioning ended. The silver-skinned elder rose once again. "You have answered well," it said. "But the decision is not ours alone to make. There is another factor to consider." The team exchanged confused glances. "Another factor? What did that mean?" Before anyone could ask, the elder continued, "The Void Weaver demands tribute. What? It is the price we pay for protection against cosmic threats. If humanity joins the council, it must contribute to this tribute." Emma frowned. "What kind of tribute?" she asked cautiously. The elder hesitated, as if reluctant to explain. "Sentient beings," it said finally. "Each year, we offer lives to sustain the Weaver's power." The room went silent. The team stared at the elder in disbelief. Sacrificing sentient beings? It was unthinkable, horrifying. How could the council justify such a thing? Daniel stepped forward, his voice steady despite the anger bubbling inside him. "We won't do it," he said firmly. "Humanity doesn't. Trade lives for power. That's not who we are." Murmurs rippled through the council. Some elders looked shocked, others angry. Serpent-like being hissed loudly, baring its fangs. "Then you fail," it spat. "You are unworthy," but not everyone agreed. The bird elder spread its wings wide, silencing the others. "Perhaps this is exactly why they deserve a place among us," it said. "They refuse to compromise their principles, even when faced with annihilation. Such courage is rare." Debate erupted among the council members, their voices overlapping in a chaotic mix of languages. The team watched helplessly, unsure of what would happen next. Would their defiance cost them everything? Or had they sparked something bigger than themselves? After what felt like an eternity, the silver-skinned elder raised a hand, calling for silence. A decision has been reached, it announced. Humanity will be granted provisional membership. But beware, the consequences of your choice may ripple across the galaxy. The team exhaled collectively, relief washing over them. They had done it. Against all odds, they had earned a seat at the table. But as they left the chamber, Daniel and Emma couldn't shake the feeling that their fight was far from over. The Council's secret sand, the Void Weaver's demands would haunt them for years to come. The team returned to Earth with mixed feelings. On one hand, they had succeeded in earning humanity a provisional seat on the Galactic Council. On the other hand, the revelation about the Void Weaver and its dark demands left them uneasy. News of their achievements spread quickly across the planet, sparking celebrations in cities around the globe. Fireworks lit up the night skies, and people gathered in streets and squares, cheering for Daniel, Emma, and the rest of the team. But behind closed doors, leaders and scientists began to grapple with the implications of what they had learned. Daniel stood on a balcony overlooking the bustling city below, his expression unreadable. Emma joined him moments later, holding 2 cups of coffee. "You look like you're carrying the weight of the world," she said softly, handing him one of the cups. He managed a faint smile. "Feels like it sometimes," he admitted. "We've opened a door we can't close. The Council's secrets, they're too big to ignore." Emma nodded, sipping her coffee. "Do you think anyone will believe us? About the Void Weaver?" Daniel sighed. "Some will. Others won't want to hear it. It's easier to pretend everything is fine than to face the truth." Back at the United Earth headquarters, the team met with government officials and top scientists to discuss their next steps. The room was tense, filled with people who were both excited and worried. A general named Sarah spoke first. "So, let me get this straight," she said, leaning forward. "This Void Weaver, it's some kind of cosmic monster that feeds on sentient beings. And the Council has been giving it lives every year to keep it happy?" "That's the gist of it," Daniel replied. "The Council isn't just feeding it, they're using it to control everyone else. Fear keeps the other species in line. If they step out of place, the Council threatens to unleash the Void Weaver." The room fell silent as everyone processed this information. Finally, a scientist named Mark broke the silence. "If we refuse to play along, what happens? Does the Void Weaver come after us?" Emma shook her head. "I don't know, but I do know that we can't sit back and let this continue. Innocent lives are being sacrificed. How is that any different from the violence the Council accuses us of?" Sarah frowned. "It's not just about us, though. If we challenge the Council, we risk starting a galactic war. We ready for that?" The decision was made. Humanity would not bow to the Void Weaver or the Council's twisted system. Daniel and Emma stood before a group of Earth's leaders, their faces set with determination. "We didn't come this far just to give in," Daniel said, his voice steady. "If we go along with this, we're no better than the Council. We have to find another way." Emma nodded, adding, "The galaxy deserves better. If we can unite other species against the Void Weaver, maybe we can break free from its control." It was a risky plan, but it was the only one they had. The team worked tirelessly to spread the truth about the Void Weaver and the Council's dark bargain. They sent encrypted messages to allies they had made during their trials, the Andorians, the Krillians, and even some smaller species who had long been oppressed by the Council. At first, many were hesitant to believe them. The Council had ruled the galaxy for centuries. Who were humans to challenge such power? But slowly, whispers of rebellion began to spread. Stories of the Void Weaver's demands reached planets that had once blindly followed the Council's orders. Fear turned to anger as more species realized they had been sacrificing their own people for nothing. A coalition began to form, united by a shared desire for freedom. Meanwhile, tensions between humanity and the Council grew. When the Council demanded that Earth provide its first tribute to the Void Weaver, Daniel delivered a public message that echoed across the galaxy. Standing in front of cameras, he addressed both the Council and the citizens of countless worlds. "We refuse," he declared. "Humanity will not send innocent lives to be consumed by a monster, and neither should you." His words sparked outrage among the council's leaders, but they also ignited hope in those who had suffered under its rule. Protests erupted on dozens of planets, with crowds chanting slogans like "No more sacrifices" and "Freedom for all species." The council tried to suppress the unrest, sending envoys to quell dissent. But their efforts only fueled the fire. Emma played a crucial role in organizing the growing resistance. Using her knowledge of alien cultures, she helped bridge gaps between species that had once been enemies. She traveled to distant planets, meeting with leaders and convincing them to join the fight. "We're stronger together," she told them. "We stand united, we can end this cycle of fear." And as the rebellion gained momentum, the council grew desperate. They summoned humanity to an emergency session, demanding an explanation for their defiance. Daniel and Emma attended, knowing full well the risks involved. When they arrived at the council chamber, they found themselves surrounded by angry elders, their glowing eyes filled with fury. "You dare defy us?" the serpent-like elder hissed. "You think your fragile little species can challenge the order of the galaxy?" Daniel stepped forward, unflinching. "We're not challenging the galaxy, we're challenging you. Your reign of fear ends now." The bird elder raised its wings, silencing the others. "And what do you propose instead?" it asked, its tone curious rather than hostile. Emma took a deep breath. "A new alliance," she said. "One where every species has a voice. No more sacrifices, no more oppression. Together, we can find a way to protect ourselves without relying on the Void Weaver." The room fell silent as the elders considered her words. Some looked intrigued while others remained skeptical. Before anyone could respond, alarms blared throughout the chamber. A massive shadow loomed outside the windows, blotting out the light. The Void Weaver had arrived. Panic erupted. As the creature began to attack the floating city, its form was indistinct, shifting and writhing like smoke given life. Tentacle-like appendages lashed out, smashing buildings and scattering ships. The council scrambled to contain the chaos, shouting orders and activating defensive systems. But the Void Weaver was too powerful. It ignored their weapons, feeding on the energy they fired at it. Daniel grabbed Emma's arm. "We need to get out of here," he shouted over the noise. She shook her head. "Not yet. This is our chance to show everyone what we're fighting against." Together, they ran toward the edge of the chamber, where a large crowd of spectators had gathered. Using a portable communicator, Daniel broadcast live footage of the Void Weaver's rampage to the entire galaxy. "This is what happens when we rely on fear," he yelled. "It consumes everything in its path. Is this really the future you want?" The transmission reached billions of viewers, turning doubt into resolve. Planets that had once wavered now joined the rebellion, sending ships and resources to aid humanity's cause. The battle against the Void Weaver became a galactic effort, with species working side by side for the first time in history. Back on Earth, scientists and engineers raced to develop a weapon capable of harming the creature. Emma collaborated with experts from multiple species, combining their knowledge to create a device called the Harmonic Disruptor. Designed to emit frequencies that interfered with the Void Weaver's essence, it was their only hope of stopping it. When the weapon was ready, Daniel led a small fleet of ships to confront the Void Weaver directly. Emma stayed behind, coordinating the operation from Earth. As the fleet approached the creature, its vast form rippled with rage. The ships launched the Harmonic Disruptor, targeting its core. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the Void Weaver let out a deafening scream, its body convulsing as the frequencies tore through it. The battle was fierce, with the Void Weaver lashing out wildly. Several ships were destroyed, and many lives were lost. But slowly, the creature began to weaken. Its shadowy form shrank, retreating into itself until it vanished entirely. Silence fell over the battlefield as the survivors stared in awe at what they had accomplished. Though the Void Weaver was gone, the galaxy was left shaken. The Council's grip on power had been shattered, leaving a void of leadership. In the aftermath, Daniel and Emma proposed the formation of a new galactic assembly, one built on cooperation, transparency, and mutual respect. To everyone's surprise, the idea was met with overwhelming support. Species that had once feared each other now worked together to rebuild their worlds. Humanity, once dismissed as reckless and immature, became a symbol of courage and unity. Daniel and Emma were hailed as heroes, not just for defeating the Void Weaver, but for proving that change was possible. As the first meeting of the Galactic Assembly convened, Daniel looked around the table at the diverse faces of its members. "This isn't the end," he said. "It's the beginning. Together, we'll create a future worth fighting for." Emma smiled, feeling a sense of pride she had never known before. Humanity had demanded a seat at the table, and in doing so, it had changed the galaxy forever. The new Galactic Assembly was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. For the first time, species from across the stars came together not out of fear or obligation, but because they believed in a shared future. The old council's chambers were replaced with a circular hall where every species had an equal voice. It was a symbol of unitia, a reminder that no one group would dominate again. Daniel and Emma stood at the center of it all, guiding the fledgling organization through its early days. They worked tirelessly to ensure that every decision was fair and inclusive. But it wasn't easy. Old rivalries still lingered, and some species struggled to trust each other after centuries of oppression. There were moments when arguments erupted. Voices rose, and progress seemed impossible. Yet Daniel and Emma never gave up. They reminded everyone why they were there: to build something better. One of the biggest challenges came from within humanity itself. Back on Earth, debates raged about whether joining the Galactic Assembly was worth the cost. Some argued that humanity should focus on its own needs instead of helping others. Others worried that being part of such a large coalition might weaken Earth's independence. Daniel addressed these concerns during a global broadcast. Speaking directly to the people who had doubted him before, "We didn't fight for a seat at the table just to sit back and do nothing," he said. "We fought because we believe in fairness and working together to solve problems. Yes, it will take effort. Yes, it will require sacrifice. But if we turn our backs now, we're no better than the council we replaced." His words resonated deeply, calming fears and rallying support. Slowly, humanity embraced its role as leaders of change, proving that cooperation could lead to greatness. Meanwhile, Emma focused on healing the scars left by the Void Weaver. She traveled to planets devastated by its attacks, offering aid and sharing technology to help them recover. Her kindness earned her the nickname the Bridge Builder. She worked tirelessly to mend broken relationships between species. On one such mission, she visited a small colony of Valens, the same creatures humanity had saved during their second trial. When she arrived, the furry beings greeted her with cheers, holding up glowing stones as a gesture of gratitude. "You saved us once," their leader said, bowing low. "Now you save us again." Emma knelt down to meet their wide, trusting eyes. "We're all in this together," she replied softly. "That's what makes us strong." As weeks turned into months, the Galactic Assembly began to make real progress. Trade routes reopened, allowing goods and ideas to flow freely between worlds. Scientists collaborated on projects that pushed the boundaries of knowledge, discovering new ways to harness energy and explore the cosmos. Schools were built, teaching young beings about the importance of tolerance and teamwork. For the first time in history, the galaxy felt like a community rather than a collection of isolated civilizations. But peace didn't come without reminders of the past. The Void Weaver's disappearance had left behind traces of its power-dark zones where reality seemed unstable, causing ships to vanish and planets to experience strange phenomena. These areas became known as shadows, and they served as a constant reminder of the threat humanity and its allies had faced. Exploring and understanding the shadows became a top priority for the Assembly, with teams venturing into the unknown to study their effects. During one such expedition, Daniel found himself aboard a ship heading toward the edge of a particularly dangerous shadow zone. He wasn't alone. Scientists, engineers, and even diplomats from various species joined him, eager to uncover its secrets. As they approached, the air grew heavy, and the instruments on the ship began to malfunction. The crew exchanged nervous glances, unsure of what lay ahead. Stay calm, Daniel said, his voice steady despite the tension. We've faced worse. We'll get through this too. Inside the shadow, they discovered remnants of the Void Weaver's essence, fragments of its consciousness that continued to drift aimlessly. Though weakened, these fragments still posed a danger, capable of influencing those who came too close. A scientist named Kira, a member of the insectoid Zarnath species, suggested using modified versions of the harmonic disruptor to neutralize the fragments safely.
Ow.
The plan worked, and the team managed to stabilize the area enough to map it for future exploration. When they returned, their success inspired others to join the effort. More expeditions launched, each one bringing back valuable data and reducing the threat of the shadows. Over time, the zones became less dangerous, though they remained a mystery that kept scientists busy for years. Back on Earth, life changed dramatically. Cities adapted to accommodate visitors from other worlds, with buildings designed to suit a variety of body types and atmospheres. Restaurants served dishes from dozens of cultures, blending flavors in ways no one had imagined possible. Schools taught children about alien customs and languages, preparing them to be citizens of the galaxy. Humanity thrived under the spotlight of galactic attention, proving that it could rise to the occasion. Yet Daniel and Emma knew their work wasn't done. The Void Weaver's retreat had been temporary, not permanent. Its final warning echoed. In their minds, I will return. They couldn't afford to grow complacent. Instead, they used the time they had to strengthen the bonds between species, ensuring that the galaxy would be ready if the creature ever came back in the end. What shocked everyone wasn't just humanity's ability to earn a seat at the table, was how much they had grown along the way. From divided and fearful, they had become united and hopeful. They had shown the galaxy that courage wasn't about having no fear. It was about facing fear head-on and refusing to give up. Years later, when historians looked back on this era, they called it the dawn of unity. It was a time when humanity proved that even in the darkest corners of the universe, light could shine through. And it all started with two people, Daniel Carter and Emma Lewis, who dared to dream of a better future and made it happen.